this is going to be just a short introduction to the open innovation model. I'm going to point you to a couple of videos that are going to go into a little bit more detail. But honestly, if I were going to say what are the few most important things that I'd like you to be able to get out of this course, this would be one of them. This is a completely different way of thinking about how we take invention, drive it through innovation and into products that is completely different to what it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. And it's extremely important that we get our minds around it and understand it at some level, because it's the world we live in. And we have to operate efficiently this way, whether you're government or industry. We both have to understand it well. So open innovation, first coined by Henry Chesbrough, and it's his book that I've had you get for the course because it's so important. It's an excellent book, and I really recommend that you read through it. And it's an antithesis of closed innovation. Here's the idea. The days of completely vertically integrated industries are over. Think about what Standard Oil was once like. I mean, they owned everything from the oil fields all the way to the gas pump, completely vertically integrated. And of course, it turned into a monopoly that had to be broken up. But those days are over. It used to be, in some sense, the government worked that way. Nobody had R&D dollars, so they relied on tax dollars, government dollars, to do basic R&D pushed out to private industry. But the government was vertically integrated. We did our own R&D, our own science and technology. We developed our own products. We contracted out, building them. Right? It was pretty much owned on the government side. That's not the way things work anymore. There isn't one company at the owner of the innovation that's in charge of the innovation process. So the real questions are for us from the government standpoint is, what can the government do except making the framework conditions right to be compatible with the open innovation model? That's our goal today, is to get you to understand what the government can actually do. This is the way the world works. Now, what can we do on the government side that makes this work efficiently for us? Key issue is how do we interpret open innovation from a strategic perspective? You have to think strategically, because the point here is, right at this very moment, you may be involved in a project that you're trying to develop a new product or to meet some training requirement or some other M&S problem. Great. Now, what do you know about what industry is currently doing that might directly impact your project? How much do you really know? How comfortable are you that you really know what's going on? Under the best of conditions, you only know a little. So the open innovation model is a way of opening your mind to all the things you don't know and allowing them to flow in and flow out. So that's an extremely important piece of this. It's not just the flowing in, but the flowing out of technology in your innovation process. Now, this is in a nutshell, picture that you need to know about open innovation. This is usually modeled as a funnel of some sort, where you're going from the wide end to the narrow end, and the wide end represents the early stages of innovation, rough ideas, you're not quite sure where things are going, and it gets narrower and tighter as you move along, because you're able to get rid of stuff that you don't think you need and not spend any more money on it, and you're focusing as you move along the process. Now, you're always heading towards some current market, and while that can change, you at least have to say what you think it's going to be. Now, we're going to model here in this picture. The blue is what you're controlling. This is what's in your organization, and the red is stuff that might influence you. It's things coming external. Okay, so the first thing you need to know is we're trying to drive through this funnel to hit our current market. But what we have is we're the government, so we've got one of the best internal technology bases in the world, right? Probably the best. We've got lots of money to spend on basic research, applied research. We can experiment with lots of different ideas. There's a lot of stuff going on that is under our direct control, or at least our influence. Okay. But then there's an external technology base. Think about all the companies that are, maybe they're contractors of the government, maybe they're not, but they're investing in R&D. less dollars, but they're investing in R&D, and they're inventing things all the time, most often things that we've never even heard of before. The really cool thing is that they might be inventing things that for different industries, so they're ending up with maybe even better solutions than we can come up with because they're coming at it from a different perspective. Now, as you move along, what you end up with is, the first thing is external technology insourcing. This is the hardest thing to do. So you'll end up with conversations all the time as, what are other people, what other industries should we be watching? What are they working on? Are they publishing papers? Are they patenting things? What are other people doing that we might need to know about that might change our plans? New computing technologies, networking technologies, interface technologies, whatever it happens to be, all may influence our world. So we got to watch all this stuff. It's a lot to pay attention to. We're going to come back to that topic at the very end of the course when we talk about what all do we as M&S people have to keep our eyes on in order to be good at what we do. Now, the other thing to keep in mind here is that there's other pieces of this picture. Look at this. You've got a blue line going from our funnel out to some other firm's market. What does that mean? That means that a technology that we developed, one of the blue balls there, actually was developed and had value for somebody else, not us, somebody else. So it was licensed, spun out, divested, right? And now becomes a part of somebody else's product. You think about what like the SBIR and the STTR programs are for in the Department of Defense. It's a lot of what we're doing, right? We're funding folks. It looks kind of like an internal technology base, but because companies are allowed to retain the IP, it looks like one of the red balls. And they can actually spin it out, and they can market it to anybody they want to for non-DoD purposes and turn it into products. In fact, we encourage them to do this. So we're looking at things that we can push out as well as things that we can pull in, right? So here I'm showing we're looking at this internal, external venture handling. So we want to be able to kick things out into other markets, but our market might actually change. What if we moved it from what we thought our current market is to a new market? Then our whole funnel kind of shifts, and we need to think about something different. So you get the idea here that our whole job, this is everybody's job who works in industry today, is to not just keep a crisp definition of where it is we are headed. Apple Computer, while they'll never tell you because they're historically secretive, has ideas of where they think their products are going for the next 5 years, 10 years. They talk about it all the time. You just don't know about it. And they're investing in different things, and they're watching what industries are doing. When they acquire a company, the very first question everybody starts asking is, why did they acquire that company? Now, Apple doesn't acquire companies very often, but when they do, it raises eyebrows, and people say, why would they buy that company? They must have something in mind. Where are they going? And you're trying to piece this together and figure out where that new market is going to be. So here you look at traditional innovation as compared to what innovation is really like today, right? So traditional innovation, expertise is you want to hire all the best people you possibly can. Now we're much more interested in diversity. I want people in my organization that come from lots of different facets of technology and even outside technology. I'm interested in social scientists and other domains as well, because I don't know where the next really great idea is going to come from. So knowledge, what you know matters, and Innovation 2.0 is who you know. I don't have to have the knowledge inside my company or inside my organization if I know where to go get it. Intellectual property, traditional innovation, you don't take risks. You copyright everything. You patent it, you protect it, you lock it down. It's interesting now that patent law really is not as interesting as it used to be within certain domains, right? In fact, it's more important in a lot of our industries that people don't patent things because there's a requirement to disclose. You may not want to disclose what it is you're doing. You want to keep it quiet. So you're going to do more like a trade secret. You definitely don't want to patent, especially if you're going to move really fast. Collaboration versus competition, right? The goal in traditional innovation is to agree on everything. Let's all get together. Let's agree on exactly what we're doing. And in the new model, the goal is to tap into those who disagree. Find out why they disagree. They may have a much better idea than you've got. So this gets back to this the biases that we were talking about before of bringing people who purposely bring people in who have different opinions into your organization. Don't get rid of them. Bring them in. Then in development, improve ideas by applying more resources. Right. This is more of a vertically integrated thinking model. In Innovation 2.0, you will improve ideas by sharing them. If you have a really great idea, you're more willing to let it go, let it percolate someplace else, and then bring it back in. This is why a lot of the open source stuff is catching fire right now, is because people are more willing to take pieces of their intellectual property and software and release them to the public, especially if it's not their core capability, and allow it to grow into something new that way. And then they leverage an open source community to get free labor plus innovation. It's a win all the way around. In the old days, we judged ideas by how they fit into our picture of the future. The new thing is we judge ideas by how they differ from what we're doing. We want to think differently. Relationships, we have relationship hierarchies. Now we have networks. They're much flatter. Organizations, we have innovation management. You manage innovation in the old model. Now it's like farming. You're cultivating it. You're putting a lot of seeds out. It's why think about how many small business projects the government starts every year. How many of them actually turn into actual products? It's not a very big number. But you're cultivating. We need to do a lot better in that area, but it's still the same idea. So let's talk about why you want to do open innovation. What are the forces? What's changing in the world that is making open innovation such a prevalent and dominant force? The first one, most important, is globalization. Everything's global. Our markets are global. The workforce is global. The capital is global. Everything is global. So to think that in any market segment that you are somehow impervious to this is ridiculous, and in fact, it's foolish. Everybody needs to think in terms of global markets. Next is in technology intensity and fusion. We're recognizing this in DoD. We've been recognizing it for years. In fact, if you read anything on acquisition innovation, it's almost always talking about, especially within the IT segment of government, is tightening down the life cycles to meet the increasing complexity and increasing speed with which IT is changing. We can't just plan things out for years and years like we used to. Things are moving way too fast. So the speed alone is going to force us to think differently. And then, of course, all the business models that pop up as a result of this. There are business models that are completely enabled by the open innovation model. Nothing else. Just the open innovation model has created little cottage industries of involving intellectual property and licensing and support and all these different pieces that all recognize that the world a world of vertically integrated companies does not exist anymore. And then lastly is knowledge leveraging. This is where things like open source and open standards come into play. And on the workforce side is interesting. We don't see, obviously we're interested in hiring great engineers and great people, but we've even seen some cases recently where some companies have encouraged some of their better engineers to leave the company and do a startup with some exclusive agreement with the main company to go off and innovate something, because they realize that, especially in some of the bigger, slower-moving companies, that innovation just naturally becomes hard. The bigger the company, the harder innovation is going to be to achieve. So if you've got two really hot engineers in your organization, you might really like for them to leave your company, do a startup, and then rapidly come up with some innovations that you now have first dibs on to integrate back into your product line. Now, you got to keep in mind, they're a company now of their own, and they got to do their own thing, so you can't micro-control them. But it may be the best way to achieve innovation. A lot of companies are doing that. And lastly, we just want to point out that open innovation models require systematic innovation processes that engage third parties for both idea generation and commercialization. This is all a network. It's a network of people with similar interests, but they're different, but they have similarities, and they've all got their own objectives. But if you do this right, everybody's going to win. Everybody who's got their piece of the value chain is going to do what they do best. They're going to get revenue from that. They're going to be successful. They're going to provide more innovation, and the overall system is going to get better. That's the goal. And we're going to talk about this in a different context later, but we talk about technology readiness levels. And we talk about this all the time in government because this is how we track ideas from a very basic science idea down at TRL 1 all the way up to it's already tested, locked down, shrink wrapped, ready to ship to the customer. So, and you've got everything in between. So this loosely connects to funding levels, not exactly, so don't take it literally, but like 6-1 research is basic research. It's down in the TRL 1, TRL 2 level. Then you get to applied research where you're proving the feasibility of an idea. You're at TRL 2, 3, maybe 4. Then you're going to develop technologies. Then you're going to demonstrate them. You're going into development, so you get the idea. So you're tracking things along the way. Well, now let's put this back into the context of Chesborough's picture of the funnels, right? So here's our big DoD funnel in the middle. And we're doing our thing, and we've got our target, and we know what we're doing. Now, I can stretch TRLs along the bottom because my technology is clearly immature at the beginning at TRL 1 or 2, and it's got to be at TRL 8 or 9 by the time I field it. Now, what's important to keep in mind is we've got all these other little companies, all these other little organizations that are all doing, they've all got their own funnel, and they've got their own objectives, and they've got their own technologies, and they've got their own TRLs of their own products. And they're all at different phases. They're all lockstep with each other. This is what makes open innovation really hard, but it's what makes it so powerful at the same time. So that's just the open innovation model in a nutshell. I think it's one of the most important things that we're going to learn in this course is how this works, and think about how it works in your organization. And it speaks a lot to why M&S is such a hard profession to be in, because we touch so many different things. And there's so many different industries that we got to know something about. But it makes us important within the context of an open innovation model as well.